What's up, everybody? I'm Marcus.
I'm Ryan.
And together, we are the
Northwest Sports Fanatics.
Week 5 of the NFL season, and the college season is in the books. We want to go over some of our NFL standouts, as well as some upcoming games this weekend in college and in the NFL for you guys to check out. I'm going to start it off with my standout players on the offensive side of the ball. I call these players my flamethrowers because they throwing flames right now. First, as much as it hurts me to say, I got to tip my hat to Mr. Tony Romo, man. You had a great game there. 506 yards, 5 TDs, 1 interception. You was 45 yards from breaking the all-time record in passing yards.
Right, pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing. And on top of that, you was 25 for 35. Now, that's real efficient, over 70% passing. Mm-hmm. But what you're going to be remembered for is the crucial interception that you threw late in the game, and everybody is going to still say, Romo, you choked. Next up, in the same game, you got to go with Peyton Manning, 414 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like I said many a times before, go ahead and hand that man the MVP because it's hands down. I don't see no other player that's going to challenge him for it.
No, he's ridiculous. I mean, he's on a pace that's record-breaking.
Yeah, shout out to Peyton, man. You doing your thing. 33 for 42, another efficient game for you. Last up, I got a surprise here. You know, I'm gonna give him a shout out because you went to the Dirty South, to the ATL. You didn't turn the ball over, and you was 16 for 20, 199 yards, over 10 yards a throw, which you really want your quarterbacks to be. 3 touchdowns and no picks. This is the first game Geno Smith. I'm giving you a shout out, Geno Smith. First game he had all year when he didn't have a turnover.
Right.
And you went down and you led a crucial game-winning drive. And I got to tip my hat to you for that, man. You know, I had problems with your footwork and how good of a NFL QB you was going to be. But it seems like you're learning. And I got to tip my hat to you, Geno. You played a hell of a game. Now, next I'm going to go to my running back, my standout running backs. First up, I'm going to go out to KC. Jamal Charles of the Chiefs.
Beast mode.
Yeah, he puts in work each and every week, but he still doesn't seem like to get the dude that he's, he's underrated. 22 carries, 108 yards, 1 touchdown in the victory that the Chiefs had this weekend. I look for him to be over 1,600 by the time the season is up.
Yeah, one of the definitely, I would say, probably top 4 running backs in the whole entire NFL.
You don't hear a whole lot about him, though.
No.
You know, it's like he's
very underrated,
right?
Yeah,
and he puts up numbers each and every week.
Right.
My next running back, I'm gonna go out to Green Bay. Eddie Lacy. You coming back off the concussion that you suffered, and you had a pretty good game there. 22 carries, 99 yards. You averaged 4.3 yards per carry, which is pretty good. Now, if you can give that to Aaron Rodgers each and every week on a consistent basis. Wow, that offense is amazing.
And he's from
Alabama.
From Bama, so
you already know how Bama players turn out.
Right.
All right, next up, I usually don't give shout-outs to players that's on the losing side of the ball, but beast mode, Marshawn Lynch, Mr. Skittles.
Yep.
Yeah, you had a nice game, 17 carries, 102 yards, and also your counterpart, Russell Wilson, 13 carries, 102 yards. Y'all lost a heartbreaker there to the Colts. But over 200 yards rushing, wow. Yeah, I still think Russell needs to get in sync in his passing game right now. He's a little lacking behind, but he's still a great player, and I got to salute y'all. Y'all had a great game. Also, shout out to Frank Gore. 17 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown for the second week in a row. You pulled in a solid performance. Now my wideouts. First off, I'm going to go with Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, breaking records.
Wow, man. Alshon Jeffrey said, Brandon Marshall, who? You got another receiver out there, Cutler. 10 receptions, 218 yards, and 1 touchdown, even though y'all lost. But, I got to give you a shout out when you put up numbers like that, man. So keep up the good work. Next up, I got to go to Indy. T.Y. Goodbye Hilton. Wow, 5 receptions, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. To me, I rank him number 2 on my future wide receivers to watch list, which Josh Gordon to me is the number 1. But T.Y. Hilton, man, his speed, his hands, he's putting it all together, and he's from a small school, Florida Atlantic. So pretty much nobody really knew about him until now.
Right. He kind of reminds me of a baby Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of Deshaun Jackson, shout out to Deshaun Jackson. 7 receptions, 132 yards, 1 TD. You know, you putting up solid numbers this year, and I definitely see a Pro Bowl in him this year for Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last, I'm gonna go Jimmy Graham. I'm tired of giving this dude a shout out, man.
He's so good.
Each and every week, 10 receptions, 135 yards, man. The best tight end in the NFL, hands down, and it's not even close.
Right.
All right. Now, what about you, Orion? Some of your standout players on the defensive side of the ball?
All right. Well, we've had a pretty interesting week in football. Obviously, with that, spectacular game we saw with Denver and the Cowboys. That was obviously groundbreaking. But let's start off with the pick six crew. It's always special when you can get a pick six. First, we got to start off with the Cleveland Browns with Mr. T.J. Ward from the O. So, representing the O very well. 4 tackles. He had a nice pick six or 44 yards. Helped him get, obviously, a nice victory there, obviously, with the Cleveland. So, shout out to T.J. Ward. He's starting to week in and week out prove that he's one of the better safeties in football.
Yeah.
So
he put that nail in the coffin in that game, too.
Right. So Cleveland, shout out. You're not obviously there yet on winning the division, but you're getting closer, especially with Pittsburgh with no W's yet. Next, you got to go with Matt Giordano. Now, you may have not heard of that name. He's kind of a no-name safety, but he's on the Rams. Obviously, they played the Jags, and anytime a Jags quarterback goes back to pass, there's a good chance for a pick six. He had a nice one, 3 tackles, 82 yards. If you watch the replay, obviously on SportsCenter, there wasn't anyone there, 20 yards close to him, so he ran it all the way back. Shout out to him. Third, I got to go with the Dolphins and Rashad Jones.
Okay. I like Rashad Jones.
He's kind of up and coming. Not a lot of people know him unless you watch a lot of football. 3 tackles, a nice pick six, 20-plus yards, taking it to the house. So I really like his game. Shout out to him. Yeah. And last but not least, we got to go, obviously, to Tremaine Brock from 49ers. He's kind of a no-name corner. It seems like right now he's playing nickel, 3rd, 4th string. He had 2 picks. One, obviously, for a pick six against Matt Schaub.
4 in a row.
Oh, man. And
that's another show.
Yeah, that's another show. But, 49ers are starting to get back to basics, running the ball with Frank Gore. But obviously their defense is starting to pick it up as well. So shout out to him. And obviously, last but not least on the pick six crew, I got to shout out Matt Schaub. I'm sorry to say it to you, but, man, you're really getting famous for throwing pick sixes. And man, you're doing it every game.
Man, they licking their chops to play you, man. Each week, we got my shop, or I'm getting me a pick six.
Yeah, it's really funny. We were watching the game, and they said he's thrown for 3 straight games with a pick six. They showed it on the TV, and what do you know? The next play, a pick six. So, I don't know.
Come on, Schwab, man.
Yeah, he's about to get on the milk carton here pretty soon. Yeah. So, about to get in maybe the Yates in there pretty soon. So, that's my pick six crew. Matt Schaub, I don't know if you're going to get it together, but I had to shout you out, positive or negative. I had to shout your name out there. Next, we're going to go to the 2-sack crew. It's always nice when you get 1 sack, like I always say, but 2 or 3, wow, you're really beasting in the NFL. And if you'll notice these names, these are Pro Bowl names you hear every week, and usually they're going to end their careers on top. First, we got to go T-Sizzle. Terrell Suggs.
All right, Sizzle.
Right? So, no Ray Lewis, no Ed Reed, no problem. Right. Ravens still find a way to win some of these games this year. Are they going to go to the playoffs? We're not sure. But, he had a great game, 5 tackles, 3 sacks. He had the most sacks out of anybody for a total, obviously, there last week in the NFL season there. So, shout out to you. Great linebacker. He's going to the Pro Bowl this year. So, he's playing great. Shout out to you. Next, I got to go to an underrated linebacker, Nick Perry.
Ooh.
So Nick Perry, obviously out of USC, and he's on the Green Bay Packers. Nice game, 5 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. Clay Matthews is going to be out. It's about they said maybe 3 to 6 weeks. He's got an injured thumb, so they're going to be really relying on Nick Perry and some of the other secondary and linebackers to.
You got to turn up, Perry.
It's going to be real key for that team to keep winning because Chicago and Detroit are right on your heels. So if you want to be able to win that division, you better step it up real quick. So, shout out to Nick Perry. Third, I got to go OG. Swaggy P, I got to give you a shout out. Robert Mathis. Every week, I have to look down at the stat line, and Robert Mathis, even though Dwight Freeney's not there anymore, Robert Mathis, wow, you're playing great. You're leading the league in sacks. You had another game, 3 tackles, 2 sacks, another forced fumble. This guy revitalized his career. People said he's washed up. He's getting a little old. But obviously he's not if you're leading the league in sacks. So shout out to you, Robert Mathis. You are the true OG for the Indianapolis Colts. And watch for the turn the page a little bit, and maybe the Colts will start winning the division, maybe this year, obviously. So shout out to you. Next, I got to go to another OG that people thought that was washed up, OC. Umenyiora. Giants right now are 0-5. They haven't won a game yet. They're probably really wishing they still had OC.
Yeah.
And, maybe he would have helped them, maybe win a game at this point. 4 tackles, 2 sacks, a nice solid DN. He is getting a little old, but hey, Atlanta needs all the help they can get.
Yeah, he's still putting up sacks.
Right, so OC, shout out to you. Next, I got to go Jarrett Johnson. Obviously, former Baltimore Raven.
Yeah.
He's obviously on the Chargers now. So they made some new improvements there. Manti Te'o is getting a little slow start with the injury. So they're really counting on Jarrett Johnson to come up with some big plays. 4 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. Shout out to you. You're really playing well. You really surprised me.
He's having to step his game up. Melvin Ingram towards ACL.
Right.
So,
shout out to him. He's playing really well. And then last but not least, I got to go to the Cardinals linebacking core and defensive line core. They have the best production, right, out of a core unit, out of any defensive unit this weekend against the Panthers. So you got Darrell Washington, solid, year after year. He's going to get you tackles, right? Carlos Dansby, solid.
Ooh.
He's going to get you tackles and sacks every game. And Calais Campbell, up and coming, DN, right? So these 3 guys combined, all right, I'm gonna say this slow for you so you can kind of soak it all in.
All right.
20 tackles between the 3 players, 6 sacks. All of them had 2 each to join the 2-sack crew. 2 picks, and a forced fumble. Really?
Man.
Wow, that's pretty solid production from 3 defensive players out of 11. So shout out to you. Obviously great matchup against the Panthers. Are the Cardinals going to make the playoffs this year? Probably not. But you know what? They're going to be playing the Niners this weekend, and you better believe they're going to bring it all. All they got coming into this next week. So that's pretty much for me on the defensive side. What about games to watch for the NFL this weekend?
Games to watch. My number 1 game to watch this week in the NFL, I got to go the New Orleans Saints versus the New England Patriots.
Ooh.
Saints undefeated going into New England. They just lost the last game.
Right.
Tom Brady had a horrible game.
Bad weather.
It was bad weather, but you still had a horrible game, man. Like Rick Gatewood used to tell me, NE, man, no excuses.
Right.
So let's see how they bounce back. And also the battle of the tight ends. Gronk is coming back.
First game back.
And it happens to be against Jimmy Graham, the best tight end who done took his slack.
Yeah, right.
The best tight end in the game. So that's going to be a huge game to watch out for. My next game, I got to go the Indianapolis Colts versus the San Diego Chargers.
Great matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be on Monday night. The Colts upswinging things. They on the rise, looking like the team to beat in that AFC South. The Chargers, they lost to the Raiders, but, they always play good at home, and Phillip Rivers is on another planet right now. If it wasn't for Drew Brees and Peyton Manning, we'd be talking about him as far as MVP, and that game is going to be on Monday night.
One quick stat I just wanted to mention, too, so people that don't know, Phillip Rivers in 9 seasons only threw for 3 400-yard games in a 9-year period. This year alone, he's got 3 already.
Oh.
So something just to look out for if you're not watching, Chargers games. You might want to take a little look. They are playing pretty good this year.
Some food for y'all to chew on. That's why we the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Stats for days.
Stats for days.
All right, and the last game, big game, big rivalry. The Washington Redskins versus the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh, rivalry.
Yes, man. In D.C. we say we can lose every game just as long as we beat the Cowboys. But we're coming off a bye week. We sitting at 1-3. Dallas coming off a heartbreaking loss to the Broncos there. So we usually have pretty good matchups there. Both teams pretty familiar with each other and the schemes and everything. So that's going to be on Sunday night. So y'all make sure y'all check that out. Now, what about you on the college side of things?
College side of things, there's some pretty good games. It's not a blockbuster weekend, but on Saturday, if you don't got a whole lot going on, first game in the morning is going to be pretty exciting. It's going to be number 12, Mizzou, versus number 7, Georgia.
Oh.
So Georgia got by with a little squeaker right there at the end against Tennessee. They probably didn't deserve to win, but all their players are hurt.
Right.
They lost both their running backs, Gurley and Marshall. You lost your tight end. You lost your wide receiver. You lost all your players in the draft. But Aaron Murray, if you're going to watch... That's my guy. That's my favorite QB right now besides Johnny Football and Teddy Bridgewater. If you watch Aaron Murray... He's a class act. He really shows you how it's done, and he's going to be, I think, a good, solid QB in the NFL. So watch him in the morning. That's going to be on ESPN real early, 9 a.m., so wake up early, get your breakfast in, and watch that game. Next, The first afternoon game that's kind of a showcase game, CBS. They always got the SEC games on lock. Number 17, Florida versus number 10, LSU.
Oh,
so
nice.
even though Florida isn't as good as traditional years, they're not in the top 10, but this still is a good matchup and a good test for LSU to show how good are you. After obviously with Georgia and Bama and A&M, are you still the powerhouse team? So a nice one to watch to kind of get you going, obviously that Saturday early morning, afternoon. Next, I got to go Oregon Ducks. I think, game day is going to be there. They're going to be there real early, maybe around 6, 7 in the morning. Number 2 Oregon Ducks are going to play our heated rival, UW, Washington. And Washington almost came out with a win against Stanford, only lost by 3. If they would have had another quarter, I'm thinking they would have won. So they look pretty solid. So if Oregon starts off slow, which I assume they will, there is a good chance you'll lose. But, as long as we can catch up, get the momentum going, we should be okay. Great matchup, one of the best ones, even if you live on the East Coast, Midwest. Obviously you know who Oregon is and UW is. So take a look, see what's going on, obviously, with the Pac-12 out here. And then last but not least, to cap off your night before the NFL starts, number 9, Texas A&M versus Ole Miss. Johnny Football. Anytime Johnny Football's on TV, regardless if you love him, you hate him, he's got some drama, he's fun to watch. Regardless of what you think about him, you got to watch it, must-see TV, and that's going to be on the evening at ESPN.
All right. There you guys have it. You can follow me on Twitter, MarcusHill_NWSF.
And Ryan_NWSF.
Hit us up on Facebook.com/NW Sports Fanatics.
And we want to shout out all our sponsors. We really appreciate all the love and support we're getting. Please help us. Share the page, tell a friend, help us out, make our dreams come true.
All right. Shout out to my man Banner Bob for the banner in the back. You can hit him up at thesignshack.net. Also, look out for us on Instagram at NW Sports Fanatics. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Again, share the page, like the page. Northwest Sports Fanatics. I'm Marcus. This Orion.
And together we are Northwest Sports Fanatics.